Okay. What's up, YouTube? Oh, got two people here. Hello, YouTube. YouTube, Facebook. It looks like YouTube. All right. Hello, everyone on Instagram. So, I've paid for all this stuff to have this little like studio and whatnot. And it drives me nuts when things don't work. So, I'm looking up here because I'm supposed to have a camera up there that's working. For some reason, it's not connecting. So I need to do some stuff. Anyway, YouTube people, uh, we're going to go into Monday Musings and whatnot, or Facebook. If you have any comments or anything, you can just post and comment, and I'll be able to see them and answer questions. Don't hesitate to ask questions. You can interrupt me. That's great. Pause due to poor connection. Oh, man. Technology day, huh? Technology. All right, we're back. Instagram. All right, Instagram peeps who are here live. You can answer questions, whatever. Anyway, so my YouTube people, it's a couple of you. I get more people on Instagram, so I'm going to be focusing there. But anyway, my name's Justin Harris. Welcome to my Monday Musings. Monday Musings are the opportunity for me to talk about concepts, ideas, theories, anecdotal things where that I'm experiencing in my coaching and in the greater atmosphere of endurance sports in general, and whatnot. And so, what I want to talk about today, I've been coaching. I figured it out, something like 50 to 70 athletes a year for over 18 years. And I've been involved with the sports even longer, from every level, to coaching kids to 70-year-olds, from beginners to Olympic medalists in speed and power sports and endurance sports and team sports, really across a lot of different places. And when I talk here, I try to really take things that are common between them all. It's the thing that excites me the most. So what I want to talk about today is trust. And I was having a conversation today with an athlete, and this athlete, we've had multiple conversations about things that are causing friction between the both of us. And I love that this person speaks up, comes to the table, and is really, shows me that they're committed to, not just making this work. I'm not talking about like awful things, but I'm talking about trust. And so what it is essentially is like understanding what one-on-one coaching is. Dynamic. It's more dynamic than static plans and whatnot. And anyway, so we were talking about what ends up happening is I give them a template for training. And like I do with most of my clients when we sign up for a race and we're 16 weeks out. And so what ends up happening is that what happens, we get into this rut where they're training for a marathon, and I train marathons a little bit differently than most people. And so when I'm training for marathons, I'm trying to increase horsepower in the engine, which is not common in most marathon plans. And I'm also, the common thing is to create like fuel efficiency or gas mileage, right? Like by doing volume. And so, due to my experiences coaching a plethora of things, I try to make sure that we're getting all these qualities and modalities and the importance through. And so what ends up happening is early on, I'm taking time in developing speed and power, and slowly getting the long run up, and the weekly volume I'm not really that concerned about. And so this client, we've kind of figured out the pattern is in when we're doing the power block, the second block, they are like, hey, you keep cutting mileage back, because I have them, they can handle aggressive plan with higher volume. But my template is actually, it was written for, one athlete, and it gets me close. And then I can edit it down to whatever client wants. And I really do edit down. So I edit down volume. I switch sometimes workouts like, hey, we're really, progression runs aren't really the answer right now. It's threshold repeats. We need to work on them, or whatever it is. Right. And so we're having a conversation, and it was really healthy and great. And I was talking about what I'm trying to do here and how the different workouts like load us up differently. So power hills are like, I don't feel like I'm getting much out of them. Like they're 30 seconds. And I'm like, yeah, but these hit hard and they take a little longer to recover from, and I'm trying to manage that versus the volume. So the point I'm really trying to get to here is they ask like, well, what does it look like when we squeeze the sponge, right? Like when we get a lot out of it. And so what I want to do today is walk you through how I kind of framed how I approach training and how that's different than some other coaches. But maybe it'll resonate with you. All right. And so um, this client is in their early 40s, and so essentially they were asking, well, like, I want to be successful, I want to run fast now, and they asked, like, what does it look like if I squeeze the sponge, and how does that happen? Like, really train harder and whatnot. And so the first thing that came to mind was this, like, let's think about the end user in mind, meaning like you're the athlete, the end user is you now, but really is what are we trying to do? And I said, so let me ask you a different question. When you're 70 years old, how do you want to move in life? Silence. Well, what do you mean? Well, what I mean is, like, you see older people around you as growing up. Our parents are getting older. Our grandparents might still be around, maybe. I just lost my last one, my grandfather, last November. And so thinking about, like, how do we want to move? And they answered they want to swim at the beach when they go to the beach. They want to hike when they want to hike. They want to travel, get in planes, and they don't want to be restricted. I said, okay. So, and this is not, I'm not all knowing here. All right. And I cannot predict the future. But I said, exactly. I will not do something to squeeze every ounce of juice, water out of the sponge or juice out of the orange to make you perform in your mid 40s, to train as hard as you possibly can at the detriment of doing that year in and year out. And you end up like my older friends needing knee replacements, hip replacements. They can't run, they can't move, they're in pain all the time. And I'm talking like when I was in my 20s, in the early 2000s and 2010 and stuff, like running wasn't cool. Like no one my age did what I did. And so a lot of my friends were older. And so I got to watch them. All right. And it was in like a pretty training savvy area. And I saw people who like never run again now, 20 years later. They don't. Cycling, they can only do so much. They're not swimming anymore, whatever it is. And I think being a triathlete is healthy. And it's mostly my running friends who are doing like ultras and running high volume is like, yeah, I'm just doing this because like my body's breaking down. Right. So there's a performance circle and then there's a health circle. And where those two overlap is where I coach people. So what I said to this client, I said, if you're trying to eke everything out of your marathon career, and I do air quotes because what's the career? Like they want to run in their 70s, not marathons, but they want to run. So I'm like, if you want someone who's going to eke everything out of you, everything, then go find another coach. And I don't mean that meanly. Just go find another coach. There are other people that do it. I lost some clients this year. They found someone who promised them faster times and harder training. And yeah, one client that has recently come back, like, they're like, yeah, I knew right away. It was too hard. All right. But we have this vision of like training hard. Now, 9 out of 10 times in all my career, when I finally trusted people like, hey, you want more? I'll give you a little bit more. It's like 9 out of 10 times, it's like it doesn't yield the results. So if we train double hard, we don't get like 50% improvement. It just doesn't happen. And so what ends up happening is they may get a big PR, but it comes at a high cost mentally. All right. And they're like, I don't know, because there's so much fatigue. And then they look at their lives, their relationships, their work. It's like everything got put on pause for this marathon. And it happens more in marathons than shorter races. So I'm kind of talking to the longer stuff, but this happens in Ironman training and all this stuff. Right. And I was in an elite sport. Olympics are going on now. I'm watching people that I've helped coach or talk to or interacted with or guided, not guided them, but like I was like the COVID coordinator for Luge. So like, almost the entire luge team except men's doubles and one men's singles. Like I, watch them do their starts and, help them with COVID policies and whatever. The bobsledder is the guy who held the flag, Frankie Del Duca, like coached him for multiple years, not his personal coach, but coaching at the training center, like, hey, let's work on this, like different stuff before he was a driver. Awesome stuff. I love it. Right. So, but I left elite sport because I felt like it was something that came around every 4 years and they were hitting all the amazing stuff they were doing. But it really like comes down to trust for me to like work one-on-one with a client and to have trust in both directions. And when I trust them to do more, what ends up happening is I get blamed in the long run. Like, and maybe this sounds silly or I'm whining, but it's like they either perform like get a little PR, but they're like, it wasn't worth the effort. And maybe it's like, Justin can't figure it out. Yeah, that's true. Sometimes I can't figure it out. Or it's like, I need to reevaluate like my running career and like what I want to do here because that was like too much. And I'm like, yeah, I could have told you that. And where we end up coming back to is that we come back to the training that I was already giving them, that we incrementally grow. We grow in a healthy, more organic way. And we stop overestimating what we can do in 6 months. And we start thinking about what we can do in 6 years. All right. Now, I'm not trying to like squeeze money out of people and whatever. Like, it's not about that, but it's about trust. So with this client, I was like, I got to trust you that you're going to tell me the right information, because what happened with them was like, they kept commenting like tired, tired, tired. And I was like, I pulled back training. They're like, I feel like I'm getting punished. And I'm like, I'm not punishing you. I'm coaching you where you're at. And I told this client I was going to talk about this stuff, and they know who they are. And they were like, yeah, that's fine. I don't get offended. All right. It's nothing personal here, right? It's something that we all come into. And I said, what squeezing the sponge looks for me, or really going for it, is being really available and open to do this together. Like, if it doesn't work, like if we try something and it doesn't work, like it's not like it's always the coach's fault. And I always look, when people get injured or whatever, I look backwards and I say, what is going, like, what did I do wrong? What did I miss? What did I not see? Right. And so when trust comes into place, I can trust them to like not, how do I say it? Like, they can blame me. That's fine. But it just doesn't feel like a healthy relationship where it's like, it's only my fault. Like maybe they didn't communicate. Maybe they didn't wear their watch for a race. It's like all these different things. Right. And so at the end of the day, like I just kept pushing it. Like, we got to a great place, and it was like, look, yeah, like to me, it's like trust, and that builds over time. It's not in the first race. Like, I got to see things, but I also need to feel, both directions. Like, I need to listen to them. I need to, like, when they're like, I'm tired, I need to listen. But when they're like, I feel fine and good, I can't just be like stubborn and, like, hey, we're not moving forward. I've given this athlete some things and it hasn't worked, like a certain session or whatever. And it's like, well, I want to try it again. And it was like, no, that was a bad session. Like, that was a bad plan. Like, it was a bad design. Like, we need to make adjustments. So my Monday musings here is about like, is working when you're working with a coach and anyone, right? You're paying someone to do something, is to really trust them to do it. Like, I hired a coach. Like, I know what it feels like. I fully trust them. I got hurt in the first 3 weeks and they felt bad, but like, I didn't want to over communicate and feel like I was coaching the coach. And I got put in a bad spot, like myself. Right. And then I worked through it, and we just like, he figured it out and I figured it out, and we made a better relationship. And I was a fucking monster on the bike. Monster. It was the best I ever felt. Rode 150 miles, felt like I could go in, 60 miles, like averaging almost 21 miles an hour, like big long pulls, like not a flat course. Like, I felt like a monster. Right. But it was like, if someone's going to pay me to do this journey in one-on-one, like, I have clients that like communicate like, hey, this is what I'm thinking. Hey, I'm not happy right now. Like, I don't feel like we're doing enough. Or it's never no friction. Not looking for that. It's like healthy friction where it's like, hey, how do we work on this together? And when I look at my entire coaching career of where I've been successful, it's the athletes who've been willing. It's not at first, but like over time they're willing. And it's not at first for me either. Right. But it's over time, in a year or 2 years, where it's like, I fully trust you. I've coached a national champion in Division 3, 400, ran the 5th fastest time ever. That was full trust. And we went into it together. There were some friction moments. It always is, remember working with a bobsledder, and just, he had full trust in me and I had full trust in him. And I wasn't planning all this stuff, but it was just more of that communication. Like, my clients at Team Wilpers that, like, who really just continue to grow year in, year out. It's like, it's not Justin says jump and they say how high. It's like, there's engagement, there's communication, there's trust. And they're like, I'm paying for it, do it. Like, make it me. I'll fail, but then I'll learn. and I'll learn you better and we'll figure it out. So if you're going into a season and you're not trusting your coach, and you really have to look at yourself, right? Because like I said to a different client with something like, to coach is to be vulnerable. Like I can't figure it out. Like I can't always figure it out. And it's a best guess. It comes with a lot of experience, a little bit of wisdom, all right, and a lot of vulnerability, right? But also to be coached takes some vulnerability as well, right? And so this client that I talked to today, it was just like, I told her I was going to talk about it because I'm like, we need to like, I'm trying to like open up the hood and see what's going on behind the scenes. And to achieve things, there's friction is okay, but when it's questioning and doubt, like I think hold your coach like, hey, this is what I'm feeling and how can we work through it? And if you can't work through it, you need to find someone that you believe in and trust. And it's okay. Sometimes you see people go to another athlete coach and they do phenomenal. And if you're a good coach, you might be a little miffed at that, but I'm like, hey, like I just want them to be happy. There's other people that I can help. All right. So I'm curious with the people watching, what questions or curiosities come out or experiences that you have where, you really had to like be a little bit more vulnerable or trust the process. And I don't want to say trust the process. I almost said it. That when people are like, I'm trusting the process, it's like the biggest bullshit statement. And I call people out on it if I have a decent relationship with them or a marginal one. I'm like, you're just like trying to convince yourself like that this is all going to work. Like you don't really trust it. Because if you trust it, you would just be like, I don't have to tell myself every day, every moment to trust the process. So I'm curious to everyone here, those of you on Instagram and those on Facebook and YouTube, what does it mean to work with a coach if you've worked with one? What experience have you had? Have you had bad experiences? Because I've had bad experiences coaching and being coached. All right. And it just didn't work for us. And that's okay. That's a beauty. There's not just one coach in the world. So I'm curious what people are thinking. But essentially that's where we're at. She really inspired. Like it was like a long conversation. It was an extra one. It was like, and we've also found out like they used to text me and I would answer shortly and they would perceive it, and it would just kind of like went to a place like, what, like, hold on, time out. Let's get on the phone. And so we just learn how to work with each other, right? Because we're sometimes not speaking the same language. And so it takes work to communicate. And although this is not a marriage by any means, it's a coach athlete relationship takes work and it takes time. Sometimes some people like we just get it and it's good. And then maybe 2 years down the road, it's like, oh yeah, we're not on the same page here. Right. And one of the things I'm trying to do in my business with newer clients is I created a manifesto of like what I'm about here to like kind of get more alignment and collaboration. And something I'm going to be sharing with my current clients of like, are we all on the same page? Because I don't want to waste anyone's time. Certainly, I hate wasting people's money. This is not Planet Fitness where you can just pay and I'm happy. I'm like 1 week of like, like no communication or something. I'm like, oh boy, like I don't want people to feel like they're wasting money. So, all right, Jenny from C, what's the biggest mistake a newbie makes when hiring a virtual running coach? All right, biggest mistake they make is assuming, like not clearly understanding how it works. I also, I don't know if the other thing is I don't know if they do their homework on like what the coach is about and what their philosophies are. And I'll say it here. I think the biggest mistake people a newbie, but I would just say anyone hiring a coach is they lack clarity on why they're hiring the coach. So maybe it's just to run faster, but it's often not that. Like I've had this client run faster and there were still a lot of questions and I'm not doing enough. And I'm like, man, we PR'd from Boston to Boston by 6 minutes and from Chicago in the fall to Boston in the spring by 8 minutes or 8 minutes Boston to Boston, and then 6 minute overall PR from Chicago to Boston. So it's like, so what problem are we solving? And if we're not clear on it, I try to figure that out. But why are you hiring the person? What problem do you have? Is it accountability? Is it sounding board? Is it um, cognitive offloading? Is it you really don't know what you're doing? Is it you're injured all the time, exhausted all the time, and you need to figure that out? Well, that probably means you're going to be doing less. And this client was kind of in that position, and they haven't been hurt once in over a year, and they're doing marathon off and on. So yeah, so Jenny, so that's what I would say is not understanding the problem you're trying to solve. Why are you hiring someone, right? So if I sign up for Netflix, the problem I'm trying to solve is entertainment. All right. If I'm hiring a coach, so when I hired a coach, it was specific. I wanted to work with someone who was more knowledgeable and experienced at a professional level in cycling than I was, and learn how to coach with power outside more. And the irony was like, I coach more on heart rate and effort. I'll give you power. And I was like, yeah, that's how I coach. So it was like confirmation professional development. And then it was also cognitive offloading because my client load was getting up, and I was always choosing the easier option for myself, just get out and ride or whatever. And I was missing the hard workouts to be successful. So anyway, what's up, Kelly? What's up, people? So my YouTube people, whoever's watching, you can ask questions. So I was just talking about trust and trusting your coach and working through it and understanding that coaches are not perfect. We're like kind of more weather people. Like we have to make predictions, and it goes there. So, all right, Josh, what's up, Josh? I always appreciate you showing up. Josh is hitting the podcast circuit. I saw you on another one, man. Ali on the Run. I got to get on that podcast with her. You talk so clearly, and you're very vulnerable in your conversation. So I appreciate that. I listened to your first one, and it was really cool. I learned a lot about you. All right. I would say some coaches are just plugging in a pre-existing plan too. So always ask how they customize training plans to a specific athlete. Yeah, this is a good one. And this is maybe one where I kind of stink at explaining this. But so for all my marathons, when people run marathons, I have several different templates. And so how a coach uses the templates, like some just like plug and play, and they're just like commenting and they don't really adjust too much. There's sometimes where it's like really working well, and that's okay. However, it's like I always run people through a template, and it's like I know how it's going to run, so I know how to make adjustments. And I do this like heart rate test to like manage, fitness or fatigue and see where we're at and check in. But so there's a little bit more feedback loop. But I'm like, yeah, I want you to be fresh now and you're exhausted, so I need to cut you back. No, I don't want to cut back. I want to do, no, we're cutting back, right? Or, hey, I feel fresh. And I'm like, you should not feel fresh. Like we're in the specific, like high volume block, and like we need to get going. So yeah, asking coaches like how they do things. And so I see my templates as more like it shows the client where we're going, because my first 2 years, I never wrote like more than a week ahead. And they're like, when's the long run coming? And it just like, it was more worrying and anxiety that I wanted my clients to feel. But when you put it in, then people get stuck on it. Like this client I'm talking about today, they're like, oh, I see, like, I expect like steak, dinner and, calamari and dessert. And I see that on Sunday, and then you edit it down and it's like, I get half a steak and a house salad. And I'm like, she's like, I know you like analogies, and that's what it feels like. I'm like, oh yeah, well, that's coaching. Right. So, what's up, Roberto? What's up, Austin? Excuse me. So talking about trust here, and hiring coaches. And again, some coaches really are in power trips. I mean, my athletes are like he's firm, he's direct. Sometimes I can have, be very controlling in certain scenarios. But again, it's trust. I have a client I've coached for 4 years, and they always want to push things, and we have often gone backwards. And I was just like, I sent them the meme, the GIF of like the Tom Hanks movie where the Somali pirates come on, and it's like, I'm the captain now. And it was like, yeah, and every week I'm like, look, do not add more. Do not test it. I don't care if it feels good. We're coming off an injury from tying shoes too tight or something. Martin's neuroma. It just popped up, and it was freaking weird. And it's been a pain in the butt for them, pain in the foot. So I'm just like, sometimes I really have to grab the reins. And then other times I'm like, yeah, there's periods of time where I let it go. So what are you guys curious about? Kind of talking about trust, but I'll answer any questions for the next 5 minutes. I'm trying to keep them a little bit to half an hour. I really love talking to you guys. And when people rewatch it, it's kind of like it's a long thing to watch. So, yeah, what are you curious about? How you work through trust in when you're paying someone to do a project or a coach? You know, are you trusting in one area of your life and not in another area? Leftover Super Bowl, German Hefeweizen. All right, Callan. I heard this in one of my master classes. Trust equals character plus competence. Yeah. Yep. That makes sense to me. And so that's like where I come back to myself. And I think this is really clear to make this point. I always come back to myself. It's my job. Even though some people just inherently don't trust people, or you make one mistake and you're out of here. Goodbye. Um, my one of my clients, a past client, did that, but most of my clients are willing to work with me. But I always see it as my job of like I need to articulate more clearly and have more clarity and foreshadow a little bit more where we're going. Um, I find I struggle with like things move in real time, and I'm like doing the calculus of like how 7 things are acting, and it's like one thing changes. I'm like, all right, that's a catalyst for me to make a change. And I'm not always clear when I make it because it's like has to happen now. So yeah, I always can be better here. All right, Josh, high carb versus low carb workout specific. All right. I think I'm a little old school on this. When okay. I'm just trying to think of my framework here. Workout specific, yes. So we do not want to be high carb all the time because it forces certain mechanisms to happen in the body based on my understanding. And I may not be fully accurate in what I'm saying, but I've read it's what I do now. I listen to people who are citing research and stuff. I didn't actually read the research. I haven't in a little bit, so take it with a grain of salt. But what's up, Drew? Uh, so workout specific. So one of the things I heard is like when we're doing aerobic stuff and zone 2 stuff and under and trying to be, like utilizing fat for fuel and not to lose weight, but to be efficient. Fat for fuel is higher gas mileage. And so higher gas mileage, we want better gas mileage in endurance sports, right? And that's fat for fuel. Fat burns at like 9 kcal per hour, whereas carbs are 4. And so like see the body as kind of like the old school hybrid car. Like if you were driving in the parking lot, it was the electric engine, super efficient. And if you stepped on the gas pedal, it went to combustion engine. And so what ends up happening is based on intensity, we are, if we're going zone 2 and under, we're basically on electric energy, super fuel efficient. We're burning fat for fuel. All right. I heard somewhere that if we ingest sugar, we switch it over to the combustion engine. We're stepping on the gas pedal in a sense from a cellular level. And one thing I did read this was like, if you're doing zone 2 training, and I'm not trying to be the zone 2 master, I put in a lot of intensity of what the training I do, but probably less than some other people. You have to have all the zones, all the things represented. But for cycling, if you're out cycling and you're doing a zone 2 ride and you sprint, your heart rate will take probably, depending on how hard it is, maybe a minute or two to like come down, but you switched over to burning carbohydrates and sugar for fuel. And that doesn't get reset back to fat for burning fuel for 30 minutes at a metabolic level. Okay. So if anytime we're trying to fat oxidize, just think zone 2 and under aerobic, you don't really need a lot of sugar until we get over like 90 minutes. And then because we have 2 hours of glycogen stores And so after 2 hours, we're going to be depleted. So if I'm doing a longer run, I'm fueling the entire way. I'm getting ahead of it, especially for long bike rides. I am fueling. I have my computer set at every 15 minutes, I take a sip and I have carbohydrates in there. And every 45 minutes, I eat. And I just do that for really long rides. So this 150-mile ride I did a couple years ago, like I was hauling, we were hauling, like for 150 miles, right? And my friends, like by time I consumed two big bottles full of probably about 200 or 300 calories each, and probably four granola bars, they had only consumed one bottle and one banana. And let's just say they, after 100 miles, they were toast. Like they had nothing left in the legs. So when we're going really long, we need to go more carbs. Now, so for training, I'm mostly there. Now, if our gut can't handle it, then maybe sometimes I'm putting in some stuff. But this is long-winded because there's so much nuance here. But if I'm doing like velocity-based things like high power output and VO2 max running and swimming, I got carbs in the bottle. And I'm not a caffeine guy, but maybe caffeine. We want super high quality. You want high quality. Aerobic and threshold, I'm not really touching stuff unless I have a really high volume. Like when I was doing like over 20 hours a week training, like I had to fuel, to like just keep the total calories up. And then when I do really long stuff, I'll have carbs in it. So if you have a more specific question, don't hesitate to ask. I feel like I kind of was more general. But yeah, under 90 minutes and zone, I would say 4 and under, depending on the duration. Well, not under 90 minutes. I'm not consuming too much unless I'm stacking. You're bricking throughout the day, then you need it. But I would get whole foods in between and maybe like carbs for longer rides, longer runs. I'm on my race fueling strategy, but not as high. And then in a race, there's always extra gels. I'm ripping them. Like I'm taking every time I see gel, like even if I just took one, I grab another one and I take it. All right. All right. Okay. Sarah, how do you get out of reds, female 40s, add more carbs daily, 300 to 500 calories a day? Man, I should do one of these talks. I have a nutrition coach that I work with, like with clients and stuff. She's an ultra runner and stuff like that. Maybe I'll do that. I have a lot of questions and they're probably too personal for here. You need to eat to support your body. Like if it's like, yeah, it kind of has to do with, I've coached a lot of women. Like I mainly coach women for a long time, like some of the questions, and you don't have to answer this. And, but like, are you menstruating? Are you regular? These are things that come into play there. There's many things that influence and affect it. I'm not an expert on this stuff. I've been around it a while. And so, yeah, so you're only consuming 300 to 500 calories a day. That's way, yeah, like you're just burning so much more. So, yeah, my thing is I've had athletes who've had disordered eating and reds and different stuff and all the complexities of it. And my thing is I will not give you harder stuff until we're operating correctly. And some coaches will work with you there. I take a more firmer stance. We need to, get on the right track right away. I have some clients, in remote coaching, it's a little bit more challenging. I'm not seeing as much and whatnot, but I try to have transparency and firm but fair. Like, hey, like just be honest with me because I can make it way worse by adding more training and stuff. And so we want to have that coverage. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. All right, Sarah. No, I mean add 340 calories a day. All lab works points towards that weight stable. Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe we have this conversation offline a little bit more because I think it's so nuanced. And yeah, there's so many other questions that get really personal on it. And again, I'm not an expert on it, so I can't be like boom, 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 bam, bam, bam. Like these are the steps. It's more like globally, like, hey, where are you at? What are you struggling with? What do you have a tough time with? Are we, like vegetarian? Like, are there food restrictions? Like different, like there's so many things to talk about. But I would just say for globally, everyone watching this and for yourself is like, I still don't think I'm answering the question well. Yeah, I'm just not an expert here. So you want to feel your body and, yeah, that can be challenging sometimes, especially when we're training. So, what's up, crew? Jafet, what's up, buddy? Putting in the miles in the snow. What's up? Let me just, this is actually interesting. I want to make sure I'm understanding this. Yeah. Anyway, all right. So we're answering questions. We're talking about trust in coaches and working with them and different stuff like that. But yeah. But anyway, Sarah. Yeah, simply it's like like it's kind of like there is no try, there's only do. It's like try, like get the calories you need in. And if you're having a tough time, like nutritionist, dietitian, nutrition coaches, like they're all super helpful. And then having a coach that's on board with it. Cause when I coach college, like, I've had this stuff with men and women. And it was like, yeah, let's get this ship on the right track and not just like start moving in the right direction. Like everything, like we're not going to race until, we're living healthy because, when I was coaching college kids, they're young, they're still building bone health and stuff. And so we don't want osteoporosis stuff later in life. So, um, I appreciate that. Yeah. I enjoy this. And this is helpful for me to get my, uh, ideas out and whatnot. So, but some coaches would just be like, hey, it's not my job to worry about. Like I give them the training, they run fast. That's great. And so, um, I was like, yeah, but can't you tell this person who weighed 115 pounds now is under 100? Like that's a high percentage. And yeah, they're running fast, but we want to make sure. So this back to my other, the start of this is I'm not going to do things at the risk of ultimate performance at the detriment of long-term health. And I want my clients to be, even when I was coaching college, I'm like, I want you to be healthy. I don't want you burnt out from the sport, and we achieved a ton. It's just like, it's a lot of framing. All right. Josh, what is your favorite endurance sport athlete to coach? Ooh. All right. So I've coached so much for endurance. Okay. My favorite endurance sport to coach is triathlon because there's so many things that come into play with like how do we load the body musculoskeletally but metabolically, and then all the demands. Like we got VO2 max run, VO2 max bike, VO2 max swim. If we want, swim is a little different in this way because you can handle more load because there's no pounding. But threshold swim, threshold bike, threshold run, we're at 6 now. Long run, long ride, longer swim, we're at 9, right? And we didn't even do any aerobic like supportive things, right? And then we get into brick. So I've coached like triathletes to run marathons as triathletes. I've coached marathoners to use more biking and runners. Like I just love, yeah, coaching. I mean, I like each one has a good thing, but like triathlon is my favorite because, yeah, it's like there's so many variables. And when you start opening the aperture, like we're not stuffing everything into a week, but we're stuffing everything into, um, uh, is like opening it up to like 2 weeks and 3 weeks. If we get everything in 3 weeks, then we're good. So like long run, like it might be a run focus block. So like week 1 long is run, week 2 is long bike with a shorter run, and then week 3 is a run again. And then the next one is a bike block. So it'd be a long bike with a short run off of it, and then like a legit long run or maybe a little ride before, and then a normal long run, and then a normal long bike ride. and then while we're doing all the other things and moving around. So I think that's the best one. The best endurance athletes to coach. So triathletes can be difficult because it's like so many things to manage. Um, I really enjoy my cyclists. I love my runners too, but the cyclists is like there's something a little different there, and there's like there's more equipment, and like with running we can get into shoes and stuff, but in cycling there's so many more decisions. And having worked and managed a bike shop, I think that's a pretty cool thing. So, Karina, yeah, so Karina on Facebook, she's one of my former athletes, and so coach athlete relationship is like a marriage. It can be. I've heard it's like a marriage. I heard it's like parenting, for some of my clients that have kids, and they're like, man, I feel like this is kind of like one client I'm thinking in particular. She was like, and I do not want to be someone's parent. But she's like, some of these, like I was saying, like, hey, like if your kid is like struggling with something, like, do you fix it right away or do you give them space to explore it and have some autonomy? And she's like, yeah, I see where you're going with this. Right. So anyway, all right, what's up, Karina? Flex on the fairway. It's important to have a coach who cares about the athlete as a whole. Yeah. I've seen too much where it was like just performance. I need results. They're just like an animal to get me results. And for me, it's like I'd rather lose a championship or a title or something when my kids are, I wasn't there to be their best friends when I coached college, but I was there to like be a mentor and facilitate and like be strong and figure things out. And so I didn't want to, ruin that. So, Roberto, Justin's favorite athletes are the ones who do as they're told. I'm going to be honest here. The ones who don't push back at all, which is not many of them, to be frank, it get not that it gets boring, but there's other sides. Like one of my clients were like, I was talking to someone and they were like annoyed with you or whatever it was. And they were like, I was so surprised because like, I'm never annoyed with you. And I was like, well, 25% of my clients sometimes are annoyed with me because as a leader, sometimes you have to stand your ground and be like, no, we're not doing this. Like, yes, you're paying me to do it, but no, like this is a better path than what you're suggesting. You're paying me to be the expert in the room. And now you're second guessing my expertise. Like, I don't know everything. So let's discuss. This is what I'm concerned about. This is whatever. But yeah. All right, Rob. As Rob, El Gato Cansado. Yeah, yeah. And Rob is one of my clients who really, well, you mostly adhere to stuff. Early on, he'd be like, well, you set a class and I did it in spirit of the instructor. And I remember exactly what I said. What's up, Mr. Matt Wilpers? We're talking about trust and trusting the process between athlete and coach. And it's a dynamic thing and working through it. But I remember saying to Rob, like, why don't you do this in the spirit of the person you're paying to coach you? So Karina, yeah, the ones that don't push get results slowly but surely. Results do come. Yeah. So it's like one of these things, like people constantly pushing against me, and I don't want to like just be a jerk. Like I told this client today, I was like, look, I hate being like the bad cop. I hate like standing my ground. Like I feel like I want more alignment, more collaboration. Like we're in lockstep together, and that's where the trust really comes in. And so when I feel like people are pushing me, I feel like it comes back to like they don't really trust. And again, like sometimes it's hard, and I get that there's some questioning earlier in the process, but when people get results and then they're still questioning the process, I think it's more them problem. But all right, Justin, can you talk about communication between athlete and coaches? I know each relationship is different, but are they broad parameters? Okay, so each athlete is different, and if you're really coaching, you get to understand this. This is why my vision and philosophy was really to be able to, if anyone comes in front of me and they ask me something athletically or whatever, like I can be able to guide them. So I want to coach everyone. And so I don't just take like, oh, I only want people going for Boston qualifiers, or, oh, I only want triathletes, or, oh, I only want younger people, or, oh, I only want older people, or, oh, I only want, males. Like, no, I try to coach the widest range of people. and it keeps me on my toes. But so the broad parameters that um, about communication between is consistent and often. Like talk, talk. Now that doesn't mean texting every day. It's just like being clear. Like, hey, coach, like something feels a little funky. I'm not sure. Like when athletes start making decisions on their own, like it feels like you're gaslighting them. Like you don't understand. Except when it's like sometimes a series of decisions make it worse, and now we have to like backtrack. And it's like if you would have just said something, I would have like not done this workout, and we would have not been hurt. So I think communication's important. I've coached men and women. There's some stereotypical differences sometimes, you know, and I push them in different ways, you know. But yeah, everyone's different, and you have to know that. So I spend a lot of time when I'm onboarding and like getting to ask people like, what's your week like? Like, how is work? What does work look like? What's a typical day for you? Was that an abnormal day today? And so what do you do? Are you finance investing? So I'm going to communicate and make more metaphors and analogies like, hey, we're over leveraged here when we do this. Doctors, lawyers, you know, I'm trying to understand the job and like sometimes like try to relate it back to their lives, and that's when you connect. So that's the thing I spend the most energy on, is getting to know people so I can land the punch, um and not punch, but land the message, right? That's all that matters. So I try to really be dynamic. Like when I was coaching engineer, I coached this engineer. It's like one of the first remote athletes I was working with, and I had a totally different strategy, and we'd have dinner and walk over stuff. And he was an engineer, and he was like, just tell me what to do. And he was like flying from New York to Colorado. They were building bridges and stuff over a pipeline. And he was like, had 18-month project. And he went from doing a sprint triathlon to his next triathlon was Ironman Cozumel. And he's like, I want to break 11 hours. And I'm like, geez, man, like that's a big ass, like your first one. I think he went 10:30, but he would fly in and I'd see him on the weekend, like once a month. And he was like, if it's on the piece of paper, I'm doing it. Just tell me what to do. And I said, hey buddy, Chris, less engineer, more artist, be more creative, like figure things out. Don't be so like to the strict thing, because you see this in your work, right? Like you saw the blueprint, but then you went there and looked and you had to make some adjustments. You had to read the situation, and you're working with certain people. Like you have to make it work, right? And he didn't get it at first, but I just had dinner with him, and it's over a decade later. And the first thing he said, you know what I tell all my junior staff, like he's high up in his company, architecture firm, mechanical and civil engineering. And he's just like, he's like, I can't tell you how many times I said that. And so I took the time to get to know him, and we went from there. So what's up, Matt, Mr. Matt? Does Matt push back? Oh boy. Okay. Matt, you can comment here a little bit. So this is where everyone's different. So Matt is different. And, so when you're coaching a coach, it's a totally different thing. So our relationship, he can talk about it a little bit more, but it's more sounding board. And then sometimes it's like a little bit like, hey, like we need to get something in, and, or, hey, we haven't like had an off day in a while. So how are we going to approach that? So Matt does not really, we don't have that relationship where I'm putting my foot down. Well, maybe, I don't know, but with Matt, it's like, it is one of these coach athlete and coach. It's like, we're more like in this together. And that's what I enjoy about it the most. That like, sometimes he's like, hey, like, I think I need this. And like, he's coming at it for a high level. So it's like, yeah, okay, I see that works. Here's the longer picture though. We have like races down, like this one's not important, and we have this one down here. So like, we just need to like sprinkle these little things in here. And he's like, got it, good. All right. But early on, there was some things that we had to figure out. What's that? Healthy, happy, and hopeful. What's up, Nazreen? What's up, Bike Hudson Valley? When in doubt, let them know. Yes. Kelly, yes. Sometimes people need to learn the hard way of like holding things in and what they want to do. Nazreen, you do an amazing job. Thanks. Nazreen is one of my clients, and it's been great to interact. I got to meet her in person. I love meeting my clients in person. I feel like I get to understand them way better and on a different level. So Off day, what's that? Yeah. Don't take your off days. Fuck around and find out. It'll catch up with you, Callan. All right. All right, Karina. I'm very shy and have a hard time opening up, but Coach Justin got me yapping. The trust was great. I missed that. I missed it. Yep. Yeah. So, like, sometimes you need to read the room. Sometimes people take a little bit. You need to prove more things to them. And at a certain point, it's like, hey, look, you're paying me, decent money here. And so, some clients, not with Karina, but some clients, I'm like, it doesn't sound like you want coaching. Oh, stop, Nezreen. I don't play favorites. I might be your favorite coach. But Nezreen and I really talked deeply about some things early on. I won't say them, but really talking of like, hey, let me understand what's going on here, right? And like, here's my vision, and this is where it's going to help us, and this is where we can get into some tricky places. And so I've just seen her growth over. We've just been working together a few months, and it's just awesome to see this. Um, so it's awesome to see. Well, appreciate you guys interacting. Any more questions, comments about trust, coach-athlete relationships? That's kind of the focus here. And not that like you're bad if you don't trust them. Maybe there's a gut reaction like, I don't trust this guy, right? They're not giving me what I need. And that is the most beautiful thing you can figure out. I would say have the conversation like, hey, this is what I feel like I need. I feel like this is where I'm struggling. This is where I feel more friction than I feel comfortable with, like as an athlete. And I do this to my clients. Like, I feel like I'm getting this friction here. Like every time I bring this up or every time I do this, like every Sunday, I have to like defend myself on why the decision I make the decisions. Like I'm lucky. I have a few people on a waiting list. I can just go grab someone else. I don't want to. I enjoy working with, all my clients. Like I really do. And so my thing is when people are going through a tough time, that's the best opportunity for a coach to like really show trust. Like, I'm not going anywhere. I can tell you how many of my clients like, oh, I must be your worst athlete because I'm such a pain in the butt, or sorry for bothering you. I'm like, no, this is when the shit hits the fan. This is what it's about. This is what it's about, is being here and working on it together, because I learn, I get more experience, and we figure it out together. So you're not alone. YouTube and Instagram. All right, Sarah. Sarah, are you are you racing London? Yeah, I have 4 clients. Well, Matt's racing London, I think. Something like that. Maybe. And then there's a few other people doing it that I have. And I think we'll have a group. And so hopefully we can kind of connect you all. I won't be there. All right, Karina, it's funny how some things stick with you long term. I still hear commentary from my college coaches and I've been out a while. Yeah. Yeah, this is why words really matter, good and bad. And so I would tell my collegiate athletes, like, look, I'm not here to be your best friend, but I hope to be friends. If you get what I'm doing here while you're doing it, then I didn't set you up for success later in your life. So if you look down the road in 2 to 10 years or 15 years and you sit there and you're like, man, so I would teach my athletes leadership from day one. Each year was like a different level of leadership and understanding it, not to be captain. It was about leading, about how to manage the people above them, like the athlete to manage me. Like, like I love you and care about you. And like, I might disagree with you, but you might have a boss that doesn't like you. How do you get to know your boss? How do you communicate clearly? How do you make their job easier? How do you make a positive impact? And like, you'll get further in life, and like how to set up meetings and not blindside people, and all these like little things that I think young people aren't really taught all the time. And so I was like, hey, I want you to like have some friction later in your life, and you think back to the coaching. Not that I made it awful. It was like we knew how, we figured out and experienced ways to navigate it in a low stakes sandbox, which is like track and field or cross country. Not like I'm lost my job, or hey, I have this opportunity for a big promotion, or hey, my relationship is struggling or is moving to the next level in a good way. Like how to set up success, like all these things. And I'll say is the ones I butted the heads with the most, those are the ones who texted me, like 5 years later, like, hey, I'm getting my MBA and PhD at Harvard and getting paid for it. And like, I realized like, yeah, I was an asshole and like I use some of the strategies that we talked about, or I see what you mean now, or whatever. So yeah. And again, I'm not an easy person to deal with sometimes. I'm not. Sometimes I can really stand my ground and be a little stubborn. So yeah. Karina, what did your college coach say that you remember? And I'll hang out for a couple more minutes and then I have dinner. Like my college coach, the shit he said, like I think about it all the time still. He was a great mentor for me. My high school coach, massive. Like I had some really great coaches in my life, including my father, who was my first coach and still coaches me. Hey, Justin, don't worry. It's just life. Oh, okay. Thanks, Dad. So, yeah, talking about trust, coaches, coach athlete relationship. Man, so much. They're with me on the course and competition on practice tee. Yeah, all the time. Yeah. Positive or negative? Karina, who plays golf, and she's somewhere nice and warm right now, or at least warmer than New York. Talking about our college coach. Yeah. I took that responsibility as a coach. Yeah, positive. Yeah. I took my responsibility as a coach. Like it's not about me as much as it's help mentoring and facilitating success for young people. So like my vision was like to develop mission statement was to develop characteristics necessary for academic, athletic, and lifelong success. That was my mission. And when I came to Team Lopers, I'm like, oh, they're adults. Like that doesn't really work. And for me, it's like it's still very similar. To help people be successful in their sport, um, and hopefully that transcends into their life so that they can self-actualize and like get what they want. So, what's up, Prom King? They were the best team, complement each other so well. Yeah, awesome. That's good. Cool. All right, y'all. Appreciate you. I said I was going to try to keep it to half hour. You guys just start ripping great questions, and I love talking about it. Helps me work through, finding clarity in a lot of my ideas, but also trying to. What I'm really trying to do on these Monday musings is make you feel like you're not alone in thinking these things. What happens behind the scene and one-on-one coaching, in the industry, in sport, Lindsey Vaughn, like what she went through right now. Like I got people texting me like, what would you have done as a coach? And I actually have a closer connection with that. I applied for a PhD program with USA Ski Team post when Lindsey Vaughn retired, and it was to get people who had ACL reconstructive surgeries back on the podium and winning, not just back to skiing. And I was a finalist. It was down to four of us. I was the only coach. It was mostly PTs or athletic trainers is what they were looking for. And I didn't get it because I was a coach. But I did a deep dive into that stuff. And it's a really interesting thing. But like sport is such an amazing metaphor for life. It's a great opportunity for us to like practice things, work through adversity and things of that nature. And to also trust yourself, your body, your coaches, and to really empower you. And I think it's so brutally awful when coaches and athletes abuse that, beautiful thing. And so I wanted to talk about that today. So thanks for engaging with me and listening. If you're watching this in the replay, if you got questions or whatever, comment them in the DMs. Again, I'm not saying I'm perfect with this stuff. I create friction with some of my athletes. Sometimes it's me. Sometimes it's the stuff I'm going through. I had a crappy day. I heard it the wrong way. I'm not perfect, right? But at the end of the day, it's about us doing this together, and that I trust that me and the athlete are going to be able to navigate it, and that the athlete feels like the same thing. And that is when, the rubber hits the road. And some of my clients, I've been coaching for 2 years and we have not gotten there yet. It happens. It's okay. And so how do we navigate that stuff? And so my conversation today with one of my clients, as she felt some friction and was unsure, willing to like reach out to me and say, hey, let's chat. I think it's such a beautiful thing. And it really inspired me to have this conversation and look behind the lens. So anyway, I want you guys to be successful this year. I want you to chop wood, carry water, and keep moving on. If you have questions and want to do deeper dives, I do consultations. You can go in the bio. We do it through Team Wilpers. I think it's one of the more underutilized things. For half hour, 45 minutes, we can chat, be more specific. I can be more detailed, and we look, and I give you an email with things you can follow up on. And yeah, most of my consultations, they end up coming back to be one-on-one clients because the stuff helped them on a path to better. So anyway, appreciate y'all. Nazreen, I'll be winning the High Rocks. Please prove me wrong. I love it. I love when my athletes prove me wrong. The Lutners, I remember New York City 2 years ago. They were coming off Berlin. The Befflers were coming off double hurricanes in Florida and missing all the big long runs. Like they only ran 12. And I had Jasmine, who tweaked her hip, stepping funny and lifting, and I think some of the training load for running and whatnot. And all 5 of them, I'm like, oh my God, you guys are giving me gray hairs. And I just was like, look, I'm putting you here. I'll put $100 that I think you can run this. I'm not willing to bet go crazy. And they were a little miffed, I think. And I was just like, look, just fucking go prove me wrong. And every single one of them proved me wrong. And I said, I'll say it publicly. I got it wrong. But anyway, so appreciate y'all. All right. Have a good night. And make sure you're following me on YouTube. Click the link and subscribe just so you can get alerted. Follow me here if you're not. Anyways, Adam. We did based on heart rate because I'm like, I have no clue what you're going to run pace wise. And it's not my default when I don't know. Well, I guess it is my default because I know what heart rate you can run. I just don't know what pace is that going to be. So anyway, you guys all be good. Interact. Don't hesitate. DM me, message me on the bottom. If you see this question, if you're watching this later or you think about something, comment on it. Show people what we're talking about, that we're reflecting, engaging in it. Awesome. Appreciate you guys.